Fierce fighting's broken out close to the Ramallah offices of the Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat in the West Bank.
Israelis are now bracing themselves for further suicide bomb attacks.
Due to the Middle East security situation, the 2002 March of the Living will be remembered controversially as the year in which the program did not go to Israel. But for the participants who still went to Poland, the experience will remain with us forever.
Tommy getting Daniel and Tammy.
I'm Marc Radomsky, a filmmaker on the program as group videographer. Because Yom HaShoah fell just 2 days after Passover, we could only leave Australia about 50 hours before the March of the Living. We still had to get to Auschwitz via Singapore, London, Warsaw, and Krakow.
Months preparation and we're here. We're only in London here, not in Warsaw yet. Wait another few hours.
3 hours and we'll be there.
Arriving in Warsaw, there's a sense of excitement building. To stares from the locals, we clear customs with the Canadians. On the bus, we get our first security briefing.
Make sure that people are not leaving luggage, boxes, plastic bags near you or something like this. If you see something like this, immediately tell your police security officer.
Fearful that the handful of Jews might, God forbid, completely disappear from the world, the angels cried out to God, and they said to him, "How long is this going to last?"
We're trying to pretend it's not.
I'm not sure there's going to be a major change in their personality like some of them expect, but there's definitely a change in awareness. The memorial is for the fighters of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising.
They opposed the whole idea of going to settle in Israel. They believed that they should live in their communities, carry on in their communities, in this case Warsaw, where they should work the land, they should farm the land, and they should integrate and assimilate into the general population.
Nothing was left of me, of my past, of my life in the ghetto. Not even the grave of my father. We've just spent some time walking around the cemetery and we've noticed all different names. Some have been in Polish, some have been in Yiddish, some have been in English, and some have been in Hebrew. Each of those names represent a life. Each of those people had a family, friends, a community. They belonged in Warsaw. And whilst they represent pre-war Jewish life, we must remember that generations and generations of people could have come out of each of those individuals.
As a result of the war, Poland lost just a lot of those land in eastern Poland, former eastern Poland.
It's a 7-hour bus journey from Warsaw to Krakow. After nearly 40 hours cooped up on the trot, things understandably got a little manic.
Sing Matilda with me. Waltz, sing Matilda. Waltz, sing Matilda. You'll come a waltz, sing Matilda with me. And he sang as he watched and he waited till his billy ball. You'll come a waltz, sing Matilda with me.
For some reason it hit me more than usually.
Oh, well, it's a heavy day for me. I'm going to see you later. I'm going to talk, and it's on my chest. I'd like to bring it out. And I'm emotional because I am with my daughter. I am with my own flesh and blood. I am with my 2 grandchildren, and of course, Australian Jewish children who are at my heart.
So now relax. 20 minutes before Pixie will talk to you. From that point, you've got to start thinking about where we are and where we're going.
But we've been here for like only since yesterday, and it was only half a day, and already we're marching today, and I don't know, it just feels like we haven't been here for so long, but it also feels okay, like I can march and I can go and do it.
It's going to be a day of unity and a day of strength, and it's just a time that we, as the next generation that actually did survive, can show that this should never happen again.
What I want to do with Dean is to actually take him to the barracks where I know my father was, because I've been here before, and to take him and show him where his grandparents would have waited before they were taken to the gas chamber and crematorium.
From now until we get to Auschwitz, we're just going to sit in silence. Use this time to write in your journal how you're feeling, what you're thinking. Look out the window. We're going to be passing the train tracks. This is the way many of the Jews would have entered.
Auschwitz was a complex of camps, and this complex consisted of 49 camps. 3 biggest of them were located here in town of Święcim. This one was the main camp. This camp was set up in May 1940 on the area of pre-war Polish army barracks. So most of these buildings existed already when camp was created.
This place was created by human beings who had children. People who came to work in the morning and went home in the afternoon after killing people.
כל בית ישראל, אחינו, כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, עומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. המקום ירחם, ירחם עליהם, יוציאם מצרה, לרווחה ומיפל לאורה, ומשיבו לי גאולה השתה, בגלה ומצוות הריב.
I don't know how to act. I can't smile. I can't look upset. I can't force any emotion because the way I'm feeling at the moment is just empty. I don't know. Everything is just surreal. It's insane. Like you can't put into words how nuts this is.
It's impossible to comprehend how they were feeling.
These Poles can't spell for their life. Ricky. All right, photo.
I'm all ready with my Israeli flag, my Australian flag, and this is what the trip's about, so I'm sure it'll go well.
עם ישראל חי, עם ישראל, עם ישראל,
When like the other countries started singing, I kind of was a bit like, I don't know, disturbed by it. But then I thought about it and I thought, you know, maybe that's what we should be doing. So we have to show that this is a march of life by singing and by celebrating.
To me, it felt appropriate that the Israelis refused to be silenced, and that we all joined in, albeit with somewhat subdued singing. I wonder if he was here 60 years ago. Approaching the portals of Birkenau, everybody goes quiet. The pervading sense of dread in this place is tangible even now.
On the 1st of September 1944, I was brought here. This place was cursed, damned, despicable evil at its very worst, forsaken by the world except the perpetrators, but even by God himself at the time. I came in a cattle train. Inside, people, Jews from Lodz ghetto. Among them was my father, my mother, my only sibling, brother Henry, who lives in Melbourne too, and I. Suddenly we heard some voices, the doors opened, and sheer hell broke out. You smell death, and there is nothing you can do about it. Shouts, screams, rouse, rouse, out, out, out you go. Leave everything behind. I lost Mom in a split of a minute. No kiss, no hug, no motherly cuddle, forever. We took this date of our arrival here on the Jewish calendar as Yud Gimel Elul, is it? As the yahrzeit of my mother, on the presumption that she went to heaven on this day of our arrival.
darkness. The train slows down. The doors of the car are open. 59 years ago, my Zeta stood in Auschwitz. A 16-year-old boy, alone in the world, at the mercy of the Nazis.
When you walk on your way, when you go to bed, when you rise.
How could you let your family leave you behind when they left for Vienna to now pick up the pieces to solve the mystery of your life?
Then for the first time we became aware that our language lacks words to express this offense, the demolition of a man.
As you walk down the paths that many of my and your ancestors walked, think of them and what went through their minds.
Yesterday was hard.
Not what you expect.
Yeah, and just
You
come
see
back.
black and white photos, you don't expect it to be a really colourful, beautiful place, and it really is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Is that weird?
It's very weird. It's eerie.
Because he was the oldest child, they got like visas and like papers for him to get out, but the rest of his family perished. And there's a thing at the back, a listing of the German from the Nazis, and there we found 3 members of his family on them, but 2 of the members we don't know what happened to.
Hello everybody, we would like to welcome you to our school. We are very happy that we can visit you here. And this is the Tree of Peace. We planted this together with Jews from the United States in February. And now we would like to ask you, could you put your flag, which I've got here, on this tree?
So come on, inside.
Come on, inside or outside?
I did not manage to save a single life. I did not know how to stop a single bullet. And I wander around cemeteries which are not bare. I look for words which are not bare. I run to help where no one called, to rescue after the event. I want to be on time, even if I am too late.
Mieliśmy już i z Dominikany, i z Ameryki, z różnych stron świata, nie mieliśmy z Australii. Bardzo się cieszymy. Musicie... Aha.
We welcome you wholeheartedly and with all of our warm hearts. We've never had guests from Australia. We've had people from the Dominican Republic. We've had people from the United States, from Germany. You are the first people from Australia to come here to the school. So
your hospitality, your openness, your warm welcome is it's so emotional for all of us. It's more than we expected.
It's about communication and it's about interfaith dialogue. And I think these kids are going to remember this for the rest of their lives.
We are in the train of love. Woo! We are in the train of love. Woo! We are in the train of love. Woo! We are in the train of love. Woo!
I think it's amazing the effort that they've gone to really try and show us that they're accepting us into their school as Jewish people. But
especially after going to concentration camps yesterday, cannot come in here and just start acting as though everything's fine between us.
You know, I can't be like, okay, I'm so sorry all the time, because I didn't do it. So the only thing I can do is just to share my, you know, my feelings with you. The only thing I can do now to make better our relationship is to, you know, to meet you. Tell me what I can do actually.
But you're doing a lot. What you're doing. This is amazing.
Yes.
It's like the best thing you could possibly do. Do you think the Polish people, like in general, are anti-Semitic?
You know, one Polish writer, Andrzej Szczypiorski, I don't know if you heard about him, Andrzej Szczypiorski, he said something that in Polish, it's a strange thing with anti-Semitism and attitude towards Jews, because we have anti-Semitists without the Jews. And some people, especially older ones, just don't want to know anything about, you know, new cultures, about Jews, about anything. They just don't want to know. They have their own mind, and it's you know, sure and 100%. So, in my opinion, it's stupid. So, well, but what I can do.
It was a very, very good experience. I didn't have any animosity or anything like that, and I didn't feel that we should, that, you know, they should feel bad or anything like that. I found it just interesting to meet them because they're our age and they're from a different country. Maybe one was there.
We can have some problems today because the main market square we can be some meeting of skinheads, so security is very afraid of safety of the group.
That's pretty scary. You serious? Or is this pretty a joke?
Personally, I'd love to film some skinheads, but we don't see any on our way to Kazimierz. The old Jewish quarter has now been fully restored. It's surreal and bittersweet, this courtyard curio shop of lost Jewish culture.
It is said that the Nazis used the tombstones here for target practice, but that when the bullets they fired at Isserlis's tomb, that's Ramar's name, apparently rebounded, so the bullets rebounded off his tomb. They were so disturbed that they did not return.
3 generations of us going to a place where there wasn't, the first generation was supposed to be wiped out, and there we were. It's an affirmation of our survival.
Into a bit of a mosh pit right now.
Being here with all these Jews from all over the world and dancing with them was pretty incredible. Like, that's the sort of feeling. I haven't felt emotionally sad. I felt a sense of belonging.
It's the most beautiful show I've ever seen. We've seen at least 6 or 7 shows on our way. All the houses we went through, they were all Jewish houses. I don't know if you noticed, on the way in, there was a restaurant there, there's big Hebrew letters. Inside there's a table set with Shabbat dishes, and it's like a Shabbat table. But there are no Jews. There's nothing left. And that's why this place is like Disneyland.
It's fantastic walking as one Jewish group from one to the other. It was just a sea of blue jackets, and it was a fantastic spirit and everything.
Those are the steps. Very well known on one of the scenes of the movie.
Here used to live and suffer members of the Jewish community.
Just take a second to think about what it must have been like to live behind a ghetto wall, to have to move all your belongings into a designated area, and to live there not knowing what was going to happen next.
I didn't expect to cry because, like,
I really thought I'd cry.
I don't cry.
I mean, I try to not come with expectations, and I believe that I didn't, but I obviously did. Because I just expected to feel.
Alright.
I don't care, even if I was feeling like really angry and hatred, I don't care what it was, I just wanted to feel.
Do you remember Mrs. Withers?
We've got about... We've got 6 hours left. We've got... Okay, this is about half an hour of stories. Okay.
I was very saddened as I walked through, and so, I mean, even in Sydney today, you don't have the amount of shuls that there were in one street then.
I didn't feel the death. I felt that that was kind of evidence of the life that there was before. But then when we went to the shuls, that was kind of the opposite. That was more sad and more and that was where there was so much life before, but now it's gone.
Just on the side of the gate, on the pillar, it said in Polish, parasite, like graffitied on the cemetery. So like whatever, I was talking to the Polish student. I asked her, what does he say? She said, oh, it's like an insect that whatever. And so I realised she was meaning about parasite. And I asked her, so was that written there as like anti-Semitic graffiti? And she's like, yes, I'm really, really sorry.
I thought it was amazing that we could actually go to a Polish school.
I found it amazing walking around Krakow and looking at these synagogues,
Seeing in a tangible sense where my ancestors came from and the kind of life that they led and the sorts of experiences that they may have had.
This whole thing is not just about walking around every single day being depressed and crying, and there's a place here that the Jews have continued
But I
on.
also feel that it's not the place to come here and to sing and dance and things and have fun.
It's March of the Living. You have to rejoice at the fact that we are third generation.
Well, that's March of the Living, it's not forgetting it.
Guys. Okay, no, excuse me. I'm the mediator here. There's no right or wrong way to feel here. Everybody's going to react differently. But before you go into Majdanek tomorrow, please just take a step back, take a few minutes to yourself, take a deep breath, think about where you're going to enter, okay?
We just had a taste of real Polish accommodation on low beds and bathrooms that don't flush. But it was nice to see what it's like to be in a real Polish hotel.
Yesterday I found it even more difficult because I was thinking of my grandfather. And look, I'm here because he survived, so I have to survive for him.
Here was the highest concentrated number of the European Jewry. What is now? It's very sad. There are only few people. In Helm, for example, before the Second World War, half of our population were Jews. Now there are no Jews in Helm.
We're going to be traveling about an hour. Some of you might know, the Germans put in eastern part of Poland, they put many of the death or extermination camps because it was expedient to do so. Out of the way, in forest areas, in valleys. Just outside of Helm is Sobibor, which some of you know from your Resistance movie, Escape from Sobibor. And Sobibor there's very little left of Sobibor because as the Russians moved westwards, the Germans retreated and destroyed a lot of the evidence.
This place we're sitting at, that was founded by Meir Shapiro. We're now in the building that used to be Yeshivat Chachmei Lublin, the yeshiva of the wise of Lublin. You always have to find that balance to show how beautiful Jewish life was. When we talk about Jewish identity, then Jewish identity is based on places like Chachmei Lublin, like the Daf Yomi that still exists, not on a death camp, not on what the Nazis did. I don't want the Nazi atrocities to determine someone's Jewish identity.
It's just been incredible. It's been like I'm having different emotions at the moment. Like I'm crying, then I'm laughing. Like I'm having just these emotions I can't even express. And now I'm going to my Danik, and the way I feel about that, words cannot describe. It's just haunting me. I'm like got these pictures in my mind, and I'm just so scared to go to my Danik because I don't know how I'm going to feel and react. And
originally set up on July the 21st, 1941 for prisoners of war, it was soon turned into a camp for Jews with a maximum capacity for 35,000 inmates. The Germans planned further expansion. Altogether, about 800,000 were sent to Majdanek in 1942 to 1943, of whom about 60%, women and children, the sick and the elderly, were either shot or gassed upon arrival.
Lublin was not far from here. I mean, it wasn't as close as today, but it wasn't far. And the highway was the highway, was still the highway at that time. So when people drove here, they could see the camp. And you will see today, which is, to me, is one of the most disturbing things about this place, is that people live, and you'll see behind the barracks, if you take a look, you'll see that the fence of the camp is also the fence of backyards of the houses that are built here. And ever since the first time I came here, they've built new houses. Now, I just want you to think, it sounds very cynical, but imagine you wake up in the morning, you open your window, and the first thing you see is Majdanek. And you buy that house. You make a choice of buying that house. It says a lot about the people who live here. It says a lot about the Polish government. And they had a system here. What they would do in winter, they would host them at night, the prisoners, host them at night, and let them freeze to death. And as one of them said, why waste bullets? They could actually look into what was going on in the gas chambers.
May the sound of their pleading cries be eternally remembered by the one who dwells in heaven.
For the countries of Europe and their Jewish communities and their heirs and trustees of our tradition.
The Shoah is a horrible world of numbers.
There were 3.5 million Jews in Poland before the Shoah. One of them was my grandfather. He grew up in Stock and moved to Warsaw in his early teens to become a tailor. He survived the war because of his profession. My Zeta died in 1990 when I was 5. He never told his story. He took his secrets to his grave. Others have addresses and visit their families' homes. I don't have an address. I am restricted to broad facts. 6 million, 6 factories of death. How am I to pass on the memory if I don't know what to remember? I never knew that my Zeta lost a wife and son, and that he had to come to Australia and start his whole life from scratch. Many people met with Adolf Hitler regularly. Adolf Eichmann, Reinhard Heydrich, Joseph Goebbels, Heinrich Himmler, Nuchem Kafovich. I never knew that my Zeta, Norman, Nuchem, became a private tailor to Hitler. I never knew that he sewed suits for that animal and his family. I never knew.
No one felt much like talking as we drove the 4 hours to Bialystok for the night.
I can't help but thinking that as we walked down this forest, it's like this is the way the Jews would have walked. Like they would have had absolutely no idea what was going on. And they would have walked down this path all the way to the mass, to then be shot and put in the mass grave that we're about to see.
Kommen werden auf unser ausgewenkte Schau. Set up point on unser Trott, wir werden da. Kommen werden auf unser ausgewenkte Schau. Set up point on unser Trott, wir werden da. Von dem warmen Land bis weißen Land von Schnee. Wir kommen an mit unser Pein, mit unser Weh. Und wo gefallen sich dieser Schwitz in unser Blut. Schwarzen Wetter und unser Gure, unser Mut. Und wo gefallen ist dieser Spritz von unser Blut? Schwarzen Wetter und unser Gure, unser Mut.
Never will a Jewish hand lift a hand, pet a calf. The drunken peasant will whip his horse sadly, return with his full wagon to the village. There are no more Jews in the land.
Hashem,
And as they were sitting there and was hell all around, every one of them was calling to his God. The Christian friend was calling Jesus and Maria and everybody else he could call. And my father was yelling Shema Israel in the loudest voice he could. And while he was at it, calling Shema Israel, he realized that he's disclosing his identity. So he looked at his friend, you know, and he stopped and looked at his friends. And his friend said to him something very beautiful, and I'll never forget it. He said to him, "Don't stop. Keep on calling you God. We will never know which one of the two will help us."
Niedawno zakończyło się też wielogodzinne spotkanie Powella z premierem Izraela, Arielem Sharonem. Na razie nie przyniosło ono przełomu, nie opracowano harmonogramu wycofania się wojsk z palestyńskich miast, ale Powell liczy na dalsze rozmowy.
It's hard to comprehend where exactly we are and what happened there since nothing's left. And it just seems so nice, like with grass and rocks. And, I don't know, it's hard to comprehend, I guess.
I think it's so important for us to be here, and we're understanding the depth of which Judaism goes, and you know why it's so important to remember who you are, why it's important to remember history, and to honor the people who died here just because they were Jewish.
Yit Kadal, Gensho, V'yit Kadash, Warsaw, Shmer Rabbah, Auschwitz, Volma Divra Hirate, Dachau, V'yam Lich Malchutei, Buchenwald, V'chayechon V'yomechon, Baviyar, V'chayed Dechol Beit Yisrael, Birkenau, Bagala, V'bizman Kariv, Maidanik, V'imru, Amen.
Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. 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 Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad.
And one other thing we noticed on this day, a shift in language. The president and his aides now calling these homicide bombings as opposed to suicide bombings.
Going to Israel would be the best thing for us after this. Being in this cold country that everybody hates you.
And where they don't say that. There's a Nazi flag, oh my god.
Where?
There was a Israeli flag within the shape, and instead of having the Magen David, they had a Nazi thing, exactly the same. Yeah, swastika.
Yeah, you can say that we should be going and the program's not complete without it, but, you know, the fact of the matter is that we can't go and...
Yeah. And what's adding salt to the wound is what's happening at the moment, because it's constantly on the TV. And that's like, you know, like...
People...
That's like adding the salt to the wound.
People...
It's beeswax.
Beeswax?
Murray's beeswax, man.
But do you think you need to be here as opposed to listening to someone in a museum?
Definitely.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely. It's a completely different experience.
Like
it's...
You'd learn more here than anywhere else, whether it's
only
in
because
school or
it's an
at a
understanding
museum.
of it.
And that's racism, that anti-Semitism that comes up, that's also part of it, because that like kind of brings it to life that what the Jewish Poles had to live through in
but much, I mean,
it was much worse then. So.
And other Poles. It's amazing how you can see like a death camp and be so sad and get back on a bus with like all the new friends you've just made and everyone's laughing and singing again.
Yeah, what is that about?
It's an emotional roller coaster. You're happy and sad. You can have like the most amazing high, like we were at the shore, and then at Madanek the next day, within 24 hours, like you're the happiest you've ever been and then the saddest you've ever been.
We took a walking tour of Jewish Warsaw, and I could not film the group because of Shabbat. Walking back from Shul on Friday night, some people had been harassed by neo-Nazis, and I can't help hoping that we do run into a few. We see groups of skinheads in parks. Sometimes they do taunt the group. Some people even chant Hitler's name as we pass, but frustratingly, I'm never in the right spot to catch it. I decide to settle for street shots. Filming these flower sellers, the sky obstructs my lens. I look up into the leering face of a skinhead. He laughs at me and struts by. I spin to film him walking away. I get hit in the head from behind by one of his mates. After this, security get really jumpy, and we are rushed back to the hotel under police guard.
So they must get up.
Hold on the door.
And just squash it. Just tumble it.
No, go on. Silence, silence.
Can't keep it much longer.
Where is he? Uncoordinated.
My arm.
Start by just not talking. Start by not making any noise, not laughing, just with your mouth. Just silence, not a word. We're ignoring you. Sorry. Just ignore.
Did anyone feel anything in terms of their Jewish identity, like today walking in the streets? Threatened?
I loved it. It was the nicest thing.
When we're doing the march and when we're with groups of Jews from other countries, I think, well, I definitely feel that our Jewish identity is strengthened. But then again, when we do go out and we meet people who have different reactions to us, like, I think that our Jewish identity is being threatened by some of those people.
Especially people that had houses right next to, like Majdanek. What's stopping them from going onto their balcony and throwing notes?
What's stopping you from helping a Paul now?
Because
we're not updated.
Ricky. What for?
Ricky, there were lots and lots. There were thousands of people that did help. Yes, thousands of people that smuggled Jews.
Why do you hate them all? Why do you hate them all?
Running up. People
Okay,
are
most of them are dead.
guys, you're in.
All right, what's the point in the trip if we don't even listen to each other's opinions?
We're trying to get tolerance to other people, and Ricky, we need the other side of it. We all agreed. What kind of discussion is that?
Exactly.
But we have to be understanding to everyone else so we can learn from it.
Okay, I don't hold a grudge on
Don't
this
say
generation,
they, some.
but some, okay, still have not learned from what their ancestors did. If they did learn, then, you know, there wouldn't be an issue.
It's half-half, because you look at the streets today, all these comments, everyone looking us up and down. Look how many guys here to protect us.
But do you know what created this? No tolerance. And we still don't have
That's what I'm saying.
What we are doing now, what some of these groups are doing, arguing with each other, is just as bad as what non-Jewish people do towards us. If we don't get along with one another, how on earth are we supposed to get along with non-Jews?
That's a big problem.
We're going to Lodge today, and a lot of the students on this program have family connections with Lodge. Some of their grandparents were born there and actually lived in the ghetto. And what we've decided to do today is we're giving the kids a chance to go back to the streets where their grandparents once lived because they've got addresses.
So I realised you have to have a bit more tolerance in the world. You can't just hate every nation that's against Jews. You kind of have to look at that there's good and bad in every single group.
I'm quite certain and convinced that the Jews of Lodz have represented the diversity of Jewish life in Poland, not only in Poland, but in Lithuania, Ukraine, Russia, everywhere. We are standing on holy ground. This was my synagogue.
The photo above is the Berliner synagogue that stood right here.
I was born 100 meters away from here, where I lived to the age of 11. My father must have been carrying me here.
I don't know if you know how lucky you are to have David here on this trip, showing you where he used to live. Now I want you to take a look at these pictures. Did anyone ever think what color their clothes were? We remember the Holocaust and the pre-Holocaust as black and white because they didn't have color film then. All the Holocaust survivors, they all had a childhood that had colors, that had what David told us here. They had a skating rink, they had friends, they had bikes, they went to school in a certain place. And we, somewhere along the way, many times we tend to forget that. And that's what I asked you the first day. When we remember the Holocaust, what do we remember? Do we remember it from the beginning of the war? Or do we remember it from the childhood of David, of other kids?
Well, it was a beautiful street, a nice street. You know, this was full of mothers with babies in cramps, you know, trying to breathe in some fresh air.
Wherever we go in Poland, we're subjected to silent stares from the locals. The children are most demonstrative, like this kid. I doubt that he's even met a Jew. So how did he become so prejudiced? I wonder if he's aware of the irony in his Nazi salute. Even as a Pole, he'd have been one of the first to be gassed.
Lodz, we'll talk more about this a bit later, was the last ghetto to be liquidated. The statistics are that 1 in 20 survived, which doesn't sound like much, but it's the largest percentage out of any ghetto.
9 of us lived in those green windows for over 2 years. It was here when the big Sperre occurred. Big trucks, Germans, big, hefty, with goggles and boots, dusty. All you didn't know, but you had a gut feeling it's no good to be on that truck. Those trucks happened to be portable gas chambers. They couldn't bring the people to the gas chambers, so they brought the gas chambers to the people. I lost my Nana, who lived with my auntie in Lagevnitska Street. I lost half a dozen cousins who were 7, 8, 9, including Kalunya, who lived here too.
I don't really feel so much for being actually in Poland, but just being here with my grandfather and my auntie and my sister here when we were walking and holding hands. It's such a big thing. It's the best thing to show that we are still here.
I just think that on behalf of this group, we should thank Udi for being an awesome tour guide. And I just think that we should give him a kifak. Kifak! 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 Alright, thanks a lot, Udi.
You are always welcome by me and by others. So, see you again. Thank you.
Well, here we are in London, right? And it's 9 degrees outside. The accent's beautiful, mate. I could listen to it 24/7, right?
And there's English everywhere, and we can now support the economy.
We can actually understand.